Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. Each week, host Bryan O'Rourke brings you an expert interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse for what matters most for your business in the age of exponential technologies.
Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. I'm your host, Bryan O'Rourke, and thanks for joining us today. We have the co-founders of fittestapp.com in UK, who have a very interesting product. We're going to talk about wearables in general. We're going to talk about some of the challenges of data, technology, and wearables as they pertain to gyms and health clubs, a little bit about walled gardens, and some thoughts on startups in general. And venture capital. I find these guys, Pete and Jackson, to be pretty interesting. I hope you enjoy the conversation and that you're having a great summer. So thanks for listening. And now, with further ado, let's join our co-founders. Well, welcome, listeners. I'm your host, Bryan O'Rourke, and today we have some new members of the Fitness Industry Technology Council. And as many of you know, I love talking to startups that have some cool ideas. And today we have Petey and Jackson joining us from Fittest. Gentlemen, welcome and thanks for spending time with me today.
Thank you, Bryan, for having us.
Yeah, it's very cool. I really am fascinated by what you all are up to. And in the intro that I have for the pod, you'll hear more about their background. And in the show notes, of course, we'll have links to their profiles on LinkedIn and their business and company. You know, we talk a lot about in the fitness trend report I did in the beginning of the year, you know, we talked about wearables. And, you know, I want to hear your thoughts on this, you know, in that report, and we'll have the link to the report in the show notes as well for the listeners. In that report, there's a huge percentage of people around the world that rely on wearable technology to, you know, enable them to do self-care, you know, monitor their biometrics, you know, everything from their heart rate, you know, et cetera, sleep patterns, et cetera. There's still a big trend with really billions of devices out there around the world. What are your thoughts, gentlemen, on wearables in general? Tell me your thoughts, Petey. What do you think about that?
So wearables are, I think, in my opinion, going from strength to strength. I see like the market is adopting wearables on a wide basis. Pretty much everyone I know owns some sort of wearable, and I think the US market has about 35% of people who own a wearable. So even inside gyms and everywhere else, the sort of tracking you get from these latest wearables is insane, right? Like from Whoop to Apple Watch, and now they're even delivering medical grade readings for consumers. That is it is going very well, I would say.
Yeah, Jackson, what are your thoughts on wearables in general?
Yeah, I think the trend for data amongst adults who train or don't train is just gone through the roof, right? There's and everyone buys into that data and wants to see that. And there's so much data points that you can pull from these wearables now. It's incredible. There's so much data.
It really is.
Really, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
it's fascinating. And on top of it, you know, you see people, they're managing their blood sugar. I mean, there's so many things that are becoming mainstream. But, you know, in the gym market and with health clubs and gyms and fitness facilities, though, you know, we've seen MyZone and their, you know, success. We see other brands, you know, using their kind of walled garden solutions. But you know, even Apple Kit with their interface to cardio, which, by the way, hasn't had widespread adoption. Really, it's in the single teens. That's been a challenge. I mean, I know with Be Military Fit, Jackson, you work in facilities, and I'm sure you see people coming in with devices. They're looking at them, they're using them, but the experience of how a gym or facility interfaces with those things, there's some friction there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that's the point, right? Is like what needs to happen is that all this data that's out there just roaming around freely, it's like, how do we put that into one focal point that everyone can read off the same team sheet for?
Yeah.
And, you know, whether you're a gym owner or a gym user, you've got a dashboard or, you know, a data set that, you know, everyone can see the same stuff from, and you know, you can then help your clients get better results, you know, and they can understand the data better, because, you know, a lot of the time there's a lot of data there that's not understood by the everyday user as well.
Yeah.
How do we, you know, as gym operators and gym owners, and coaches, like, how do you help your clients with that data and help them get better results with that data?
Yeah. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, so what I would say is like this walled garden approach of these big companies, usually, especially like Apple and the big tech, they try to aim towards B2C side. And what that means is for gyms and other small businesses, they seem to have been left behind. They try to do some bits and bobs with the gym kit and the other bits, but like they go with the approach where it's like they really target the consumer rather than the businesses. So that's where I think somebody comes into play, which can collaborate all of this data from different sources. Also, like each system has their own sort of different setup and a different data type. So like this needs to be some cohesion, which brings in everything together. So we have seen like some success with companies like Rook Health, which are doing some sort of collation from different sources, and other companies as well, which come in. Also, I believe that I'm more a proponent of the open source and being connected with everyone. I like the Google approach way better than the Apple approach.
Yeah. No, I can see that. And that is the friction point in general, because, and also, as you know, is what people might be doing to monetize that's not in the interest of the facility, or even creating new user experiences that are outside of the walled garden that's here. Because, you know, if you have a facility and someone's using a device and it's, you know, it doesn't give you an opportunity to use that stuff to make a better experience for the user when they're in the facility, right? Yeah.
And
tell me about your thoughts on that.
Like also, was like, what I found is that, you know, someone who loves an Apple Watch loves an Apple Watch. Someone who loves a Whoop loves a Whoop, and it's going to be very hard to convince them to do otherwise. And so when you have that sort of approach, it limits the way that you can engage with your clients and engage with the members and people in the fitness industry.
That's right. Pete, I assume you agree, Pete.
Definitely, I agree on that. So also, I mean, in this day and age, with building software solutions is getting easier by the day, so there shouldn't be that friction left to begin with, right? Like you can integrate with any wearable and everything quite easily. So also, as a gym owner, a lot of these devices with these walled gardens cost a lot of money, right? Like they're very expensive. So it's not accessible to every single mom and pop gym. So they would much rather use their existing device, which is working perfectly fine, and have software solutions on top of it, rather than go buy like a very expensive equipment with like a fancy device, walled garden. And then on the flip side as well, I don't see that this data is being presented back to the gyms. So these platforms try to monetize and give this data, keep this data themselves, rather than give it to the gym owner, who's actually going to deliver those results for the user. So that, I believe, is like another interesting area where empowering the gym owners to deliver the results, because he is the point of contact for the clients, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. Yeah. And so we were talking, what you mentioned, when we were talking, for the audience to know, we were talking before the pod started about what we would explore in our conversation here. And you said something interesting that we didn't really get into, Pete, before. So pardon me for bringing this up, but I think you brought up a very important point just now. You know, Clay Christensen's idea of the innovator's dilemma, and you have a lot of these companies, they're invested in legacy technologies. And you mentioned that the cost of development is coming down dramatically, and so your ability to execute on new solutions using technology is radically changing compared to a lot of these established players who spent, in many cases, hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, building these infrastructures around certain walled garden, models where, heretofore, they're a barrier relative to the amount of expertise and expense that would require for somebody to come up with a solution. That can really change things a lot. Do you think? I mean, what do you think about that, Pete? I mean, with your background at Carnegie Mellon, I believe, and your background in technology, tell us about that, because I'm not sure everyone understands what's actually going on right now with respect to what you described.
Yeah.
What do you think? Yeah.
So, in my opinion, now is the time. Like, there has never been a better time to be a startup ever. In all of my experience, now a small team can deliver outsized returns and go compete with like the bigger companies without having to raise those hundreds of millions of dollars.
That's right.
In our experience as well, what we see is like the speed of development has gone up tremendously, right? So if you are a good engineer, with using AI, you can deliver things which used to take months and a lot of planning and everything else. You can now, in software, there's always like a thinking where people are like, they consider software as like you make it once and it has to be completely robust. It has to be completely good. But I think that was also starting to change in the sense that you can now iterate so quickly that you can create a feature, test it out of the market, and then move on to the next one without having to worry about the cost of development. So we will see like an explosion of different features and different services in every single area. So this is for a startup a great time to be alive.
Yeah, it's also a very dangerous time for existing players. Because if they build moats around these existing positions, they can quickly lose their position. I agree with your thesis. In fact, in my recent talks and my one that I'll be delivering next week in Singapore, I get into this because I think you're so right in what you're asserting, which leads us to, we've defined a problem and a challenge. You have a bunch of people with a bunch of different kind of wearables going into gyms without really ability to utilize and leverage that for everyone's benefit to create new user experiences. That really doesn't exist today. And is that where you came up with the idea for fittestapp? Is that where it came from, guys?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So basically what happened was like, so Jackson was using a system in his gym, which was like a walled garden system. And then I had an Apple Watch and I showed up and I'm like, he was telling me like, you got to wear this heart rate belt to be able to use it. I'm like, my Apple Watch has a heart rate monitor. Like, why doesn't it just work? So that's where the idea originated originally. Jackson?
No, for sure. That's it, right? And it just came into, it's a really expensive system to onboard, and then you have to, have a wall garden, like he said, belts that are expensive, X, Y, and Z. And it's like, hey, how about we just leverage the everyday wearable of the user, and then put that into a format that's gonna, help that gym owner aggregate the data and really help power their gym. So that's when Fittest was born.
It makes a lot of sense. So how does this product work? Can you get into a little more of the kind of features and what your thoughts are around its development? Because that concept makes a hell of a lot of sense to me. But where are you taking it? Like, you're building with that concept, but what are some of the feature sets that you're delivering with the product solution?
Yeah, definitely. So for the product, basically we started off with allowing any hardware to be used or any wearable. So if you have a Bluetooth connection, then you can connect to the app using your wearable, and then the app will transfer the data back to the back end. If you have an Apple Watch or any wearable that is connected to the internet, it can transmit that data directly. And then the system renders all of these displays through the cloud. So you don't need any other device inside your gym to power the solution. So that's why we got rid of any touch point where there was a hardware required we got rid of that. So you can run 10 screens, 15 screens, 20 screens. It doesn't matter to us. Because previously the other people, you need a hardware to go with each TV. Whereas with our system, you can just like power everything. We just recently enabled FTMS connections as well. So instead of just using heart rate belts, you can connect your bikes and your ergs and your other devices which are available. We are hoping to work with every single provider which enables, which agrees with the open standard, and basically leverage that to showcase their the data on this big screen. Apart from that, we are also working towards innovating more on the screen itself, right? So the heart rate monitoring systems have always will look like that square tiles with their heart rate and effort percentage. How about if we can make a game out of it? How about there's like an actual 3D game of people sitting on their bikes, they compete with each other and they play it like inside a gym instead of on their app. So that's where I think we're trying to take it to, and basically enabling every single device that plays nice with the open standards to be able to come on the system, and then basically giving this data back to the gym owner on the side as well, so they know how fit their users are. And then basically we give you the, like, if their weight has reduced, and basically all of the metrics and how many points the users get. And then they can deliver the leaderboards and all of that side as well. So that's where we are at the moment.
Brilliant. And tell me, so that sounds like a very fascinating a solution. And how long has it been since you all started the business now?
Yeah, we started around like a year and some months ago. That's when we originally came up with the idea and started development. But like we have like with the AI, it has really become like so much quicker to develop everything. I would say like past 8-9 months is when the dev work has really taken off.
Yeah. And so, are you using it, Jackson, in your facility that you're working with now?
Yeah, we're using it in our facility, and that's where we was able to like test and robust test and push out changes and then rapidly change again. And and that's where we come out, with a solid product now, which fittestapp is.
So fascinating. Thanks for sharing that story. So tell me, do you have any pearls of wisdom for listeners? Because we do have in our audience a lot of people that have started businesses. They're thinking about it, or they're curious about the industry in general and what is innovative. Tell me some pearls of wisdom that you've kind of come to learn in the last year and change as you've gone through this development and this launching of your business. What have you discovered?
So what I would say, like, there's innovation happening on all fronts, really. What used to work 2 years ago has completely transformed now, right? If and it has the barrier to entry has never been lower, and it is dropping by the day. What teams of developers used to do now can be done by like a few people, really. You can work across different stacks. You don't need a separate core iOS guy or a separate core Android guy. All this can be done with a few people who are generalist and like deliver all of this. From the startup side, I would say like a lot of people I see chase after the funding route more than going after the profitability and actually building a product.
That's true. That is so true. That is so true.
That, in my opinion, you're trying to put the cart before the horse. And I would recommend that basically you go ahead and build the product and go to your customer and validate the product market fit. And if that is good, that the money will chase after you instead of you chasing after the money. Also, I feel like the VCs have this is like a secret that the VCs sometimes guard. Like, you are growing after the hyper growth, but like the founders are not going to make the best case scenario for a founder is actually chasing after a good recurring business, right? Like, if you can sell the product and get the money in, that will make you enough money. Maybe it won't make you a billionaire, but like,
no, who cares?
Would you rather bet on that on this?
That's so true. Unicorns. In fact, I think the whole world of monetizing businesses is changing. It has to change. The old narrative was unicorns. So many unicorns today are really not unicorns. They're value on paper. They're not real. And once you get on that hamster wheel of raising capital all the time, and all we hear about in the rags, in the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times, are these outliers that just aren't the meat and potatoes. And it's like, well, what are you really trying to do? Like, the other side, I think we agree on this. We haven't talked about this before, Pete, but that is very important thinking, because it's a radical departure from what has been the narrative for over a decade. And that narrative is really poisoning a lot of businesses, because the alignment of venture capital with the founders of the business itself are really at odds. They're not aligned. It's like a VC firm's just sitting there at the craps table making bets, and their agenda is very different than what it takes sometimes to really make a viable company. And you don't have to be a $1 billion company. Why is that now the measure of success, right?
Yeah. No, I totally believe it's like if you had $1 billion versus you had, like, I don't know, a few million. I mean, still it's a lot of money, but at $1 billion, it's just like an additional zero in your bank's account number. Really, like, what's going to change?
That's right. Especially in a world where the cycle of development and new ideas is so fast that by the time you build something to a point, there's going to be a whole other thing. So why tie yourself to that by getting a lot of money to get to a point where what's really, is that really an efficient deployment of capital? I mean, I think that's a big question that people are going to start asking themselves. That's a lot of great insight by both of you.
Yeah. Also, I feel like with the VC route, it's like I've seen so many companies get tripped up with those double dips and then preferential equity. So you're losing a lot of control. And even if you were to somehow get your company to 100 million, the odds are that the VCs are going to boot you out, put somebody else in place.
Yeah, that's right. No, I think that's great insight. That's great insight, guys. Well, kudos to you all for doing this. And one of the very fortunate things I have is get to speaking to you kind of folks who are out there doing the work, right? And of course, at the Fittest Industry Technology Council, we love helping businesses like yours be successful and make a dent in the universe that we're in. And so I'm very, very proud and delighted that we got to chat today and share this information with the world out there. Of course, listeners, in the show notes, you're going to see all the links to these gentlemen so you can check them out, find out more about their company, fittestapp, based out of the UK. And, we'll be following you and cheering you on, guys. Thanks for making time.
Amazing. Thank you, Bryan, for your taking time.
Thank you.
Hello, listeners. This is Bryan O'Rourke, and thanks so much for listening to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. The podcast is made possible by the Fitness Industry Technology Council, a consortium of global brands working together to enhance the adoption of technologies in the fitness space. Our company, Videri Ventures, which is invested in Vertimax, Montezuma, Gold's Gym, Houston, Texas, and Fitness 24/7 Thailand, also underwrites the podcast, along with our service companies, Integris Advisors, Moon Mission Media, and others. Please feel free to share this podcast with your colleagues. And if I can be of any assistance to you, don't hesitate to reach out, bryanko'rourke@gmail.com, or find me on any of the major social networks. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.